It started at the local coffee shop on Franklin Street, the kind of quiet place where people escape from the noise of their everyday lives. I'd stop by every morning before heading to my office job at the architecture firm just a few blocks away. That's where I first noticed her. Olivia Grant. She wasn't flashy. She wasn't loud. In fact, she had this quiet, composed demeanor that almost made her invisible to everyone else. Almost. She was always dressed neatly. Slacks, a cream blouse, her dark hair pulled back into a bun. On her finger was a wedding ring, clear as day. But that didn't stop the air around her from feeling different. There was something in her energy. Something unspoken. I didn't think much of it the first week. We'd exchange polite smiles and go our separate ways. But soon things started to shift. The first sign was subtle. So subtle that anyone else might have missed it. She began to sit closer. Not too close, mind you. Just close enough. The coffee shop had dozens of open tables, and yet, for 3 days in a row, she chose the one next to mine. She'd glance over occasionally, always with that controlled, stoic face. And yet, in those small expressions, I saw hints of something stirring beneath. I'm not a mind reader, but I've been around enough to know when someone's not just being polite. Then came the second sign, the conversations. Started with small talk. She asked about the book I was reading. Then, the next day, she remembered what I said about it. Did the plot twist surprise you? She asked, as if we'd known each other longer than we had. Olivia had this poised tone, like she wasn't trying to reveal anything. But the way she listened, the way she looked straight into my eyes, lingering just a bit longer than needed, it felt intentional. I later learned she was a literature professor at the university nearby. Her husband, David, was a corporate lawyer. They lived in a condo near the riverfront. All normal facts, but she told me these pieces with a tone that made me feel like I was being let in on something private. There was a warmth in the way she spoke. Not flirtatious, but undeniably intimate. I remember one morning I got a call from work while we were mid-conversation. I excused myself and stepped outside. When I came back, she had already left, but she'd written a note on a napkin. Hope the day doesn't drain you too much. You seem like someone who gives more than he gets. Oh, kept that napkin. Not because I was developing feelings, but because it confirmed what I suspected. A married woman doesn't just leave notes like that unless something deeper is going on. The third sign was physical, again subtle. A soft touch on the arm when she laughed. A glance that wandered just a little too far. And then the lipstick. One morning, she walked in and sat across from me with her usual poise. But this time, she was wearing red lipstick. Bold. Striking. She noticed me noticing. Too much? She asked with a coy smile. Not at all, I replied. What struck me wasn't just the lipstick. It was the fact that she wore it only when meeting me. On other days, she looked like her usual self. Minimal makeup, neutral tones. But on mornings when we talked longer, when our conversations felt heavier with meaning, she dressed differently. Silent signal. A red flag, maybe. Still, I told myself not to read too much into it. She was married. Nothing had happened. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't start anticipating her presence. She had a stillness that drew me in, and I think she knew that. She wielded her silence like a weapon. That's when I began noticing the fourth sign. Emotional probing. She'd ask questions that went beyond the surface. Have you ever felt like you were in the wrong life? She once asked. I looked at her, confused. I mean, she continued, you do everything right. You get the degree. You marry the right person. You follow the map. But something inside you keeps whispering that this wasn't the road you were meant to take. It was heavy for a morning conversation over cappuccinos. I think we all wonder that sometimes, I said carefully. Do you? She asked, watching me. That moment hung in the air longer than any others. I could tell she wasn't just talking about herself. She was feeling something. And she was wondering if I did too. Over the following weeks, our meetings became less coincidental and more planned, though we never said it out loud. There was no texting, no calls, just the unspoken agreement that we'd see each other there, every morning as if it were routine. as if nothing unusual was happening. But every conversation pulled us deeper into a gray zone. One rainy Thursday, she sat down and didn't say a word for 5 minutes. Just sipped her drink and stared out the window. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, lower, like something had cracked. "He forgets I exist sometimes," she said. "I could disappear for a week, and he'd think I was just on a trip with my department." I stayed silent. It wasn't my place to judge. But my heart was racing. "Does he know you come here?" I asked. "No," she answered. "But I'm not hiding either. I just stopped explaining things that don't matter to him." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to tell her to fix things with her husband, to take responsibility. But another part of me, the one that was drawn to her mystery, just listened. Eventually, things hit a tipping point. One morning she didn't show up. I waited until the barista gave me a knowing glance, the kind that said, "Maybe tomorrow." But she didn't come the next day either. Or the day after that. I went a full week without seeing her. Then one morning there she was, standing by the Riverwalk, a place I passed on my way home. She wasn't alone. She was with her husband. He looked stern, distant. She looked different. Not sad. Not happy. Just blank. Our eyes met as I walked by. She didn't smile. She didn't nod. But her eyes told me everything. That chapter had closed. Whatever it was we were building silently, it had ended just as silently. Weeks passed. Focused on work. I started dating again. But something in me had changed. I realized that stoic women, the ones who appear unreadable, often carry the deepest emotions underneath. Olivia never said she was attracted to me. She never made a move. She never crossed a line. But the signs were there, all 4 of them. She sat closer when she didn't need to. She remembered the details no one else would. She changed her appearance for our time together. And she opened up, just enough to reveal her emotional longing. Olivia Grant was a master of restraint. A woman who followed the rules her whole life but found herself pulled toward something that reminded her she was still alive. I never saw her again. But I still think about her sometimes, when I sip my coffee or pass that same table by the window. And I wonder if she thinks about me too. Because attraction, especially unspoken, doesn't always explode. Sometimes it just lingers quietly, like the memory of a morning conversation that almost became something more.